for you. You don't know where the real opportunities are. When you're starting in business, you don't know where your biggest bait is. You'll see lots of different options, and you won't know which of them is actually going to produce right now. Does that make sense? What I see commonly in business is people take all of their resources and they put them into one thing. And they don't even know if that thing is going to produce yet. They have no idea. Have you ever had a friend who's had a business idea and they've gone, oh, yeah, no, I'm so excited about this. So they then go and spend like $2,000 on a website. They like try and find premises. Oh, I'm going to go locate here. And what staff do we need? And where do we need to be? And they start focusing on all these things. We need cards. We need business cards. So I don't want cheap ones. We need like expensive ones that are going to say the right thing. They're going to say we're serious. So they go and they get expensive business cards, and they go and buy expensive stationery. We need a filing cabinet for all the filing we're going to do, but we don't have any accounts yet. But let's get a filing cabinet so that we're prepared for that. And they do all of this stuff. They put all of their resources into something, and they have no idea yet whether it's actually going to work or not. And it's the worst way to be. If we have a couple of plates spinning, what it really means is I'm creating opportunities in different areas, and I'm going to see which of these really bites. Because very often, the thing that you thought was going to go down well won't go down well, and something you didn't think was going to be anything will become something big. It's actually like that when you prepare a speech, by the way. You give a story for the first time and you've never told it before, you've always got to have your audience that you break in on a story. And when you have a story that you're breaking in for the first time, the parts you thought were going to be great very often suck. Nothing happens. No one even laughs. You thought it was going to be like a big moment. Nothing happens. And the part that you didn't think was anything, the part that wasn't even supposed to be funny, everyone starts cracking up. And you go, oh, maybe that was the funny bit. So you go back, you rewrite the story around the funny bit. And you get rid of the part that didn't work, and you kind of rehash it, and that's how you create an amazing speech. In business, it's kind of the same. You don't know what parts are going to resonate with people yet. You don't know what product is going to go down the best. You don't know what your market wants. So in the beginning, putting all your resources into something before you know that doesn't work. Have a couple of different plates spinning and see which one works. The beauty of that is, if some big opportunity falls flat, you don't feel like your confidence is solely rooted in that thing. It's a bit like having, if you imagine it like a matrix, and in this matrix you've got these different opportunities. If this one falls flat, it's okay because you're falling back on these and you're actually allowing yourself to diversify your confidence. If you have a matrix that just says, this is my big opportunity, this is my big break, and then that screws up, then you're in trouble. That was why people will often say to me, with the TV work that I did, because the first time I was doing live TV, I was very, very nervous, but nowhere near as nervous as I would have been if that was the only thing going on in my life. Luckily, I had a business and I had speeches and I had all these other things going on which were really exciting me. So I knew that even if something went wrong on TV, that's okay, I got this whole thing over here. That's what allowed me to be more relaxed. What allows me to be relaxed in this environment is that I got a ton of other things that I'm doing later today and tomorrow and the next day and all different opportunities that actually it's okay. This is okay. If this bombs, I'm going to be okay. And that diversification allows us to be more confident. Have a few plates spinning. This is very, very important. You don't know what is going to come off until you see it. Now, the caveat to this is when you see something start to bite, go with it. When you feel something, this one's working, this opportunity is working, go with it and start diverting more resources to it. Once you find something that works, divert more resources to it. It's a bit like, what happens if I don't know how many of you are familiar with online marketing, but if you were testing, let's say, a pay-per-click campaign on Google, the worst thing you can do is say, right, my budget, all the money I have savings is $1,000. I'm going to put this $1,000 into this campaign. And then you put it there and Google eats it up in a day. All right? And that's your $1,000 gone. And it didn't work. But that's it now. Because if you'd have tested £5 or $5 for the American audience, if you'd have tested 5, You would have then been able to test that to see if it produced anything, and then direct more resources to it if it didn't work, or if it did work rather. If it didn't work, you could try something else. But most people will literally divert all of their initial resources into one thing. They don't even know if it works yet. I'm going to give you a solution to this in a little while, okay? So most of what you do will fall flat. Have a few plates spinning. Next, take every opportunity seriously. Take every opportunity seriously. There are many instances where I see people just not capitalizing on the little opportunities that are around them. And it's because they're kind of being too discerning about what's what. If someone is interested in what you do and wants a meeting, have the meeting. If there's somewhere you can go just to suss something out, go. If there's someone you think might be worth calling, call them. In the beginning, take every opportunity seriously. How many of you seen the film Yes Man? Okay. There's an interesting lesson in that film. What's the lesson he learns at the end? Anyone tell me? What's the lesson he learns at the end of the film? There may be many lessons, but what's the lesson that is kind of obvious?
He done it because he wanted to do it, not just because he had to do it.
Okay, because he wanted to do it. But what is the guy who taught him to say yes in the first place? What's the lesson he says to him when he figures out his whole life went crazy because he said yes?
I can't remember, dude.
Does anyone know? He's in hospital. His life is on meltdown because he said yes to too many things. And he said, you said you say yes to everything. And then the guy in that moment says, in the beginning you say yes to everything. Then you get a little bit more discerning with it. You get a bit more structured with what you say yes to. Now, for me, business is very much like that. In the beginning, when you're starting out and when you're trying to grow, you have to kind of say yes to everything in a sense. That doesn't mean you embark on every journey that someone puts in front of you, but it does mean you entertain it. You go and you meet someone, you find out what's going on, because then you're going to meet lots of different people. Then you're going to find lots of different things come your way. You have to do it in the beginning. As you start to grow, you will start to reject meetings. You will start to do less. You will start to say, close the doors on people, because you realize you have to in order to maintain focus. But in the beginning, take every single opportunity seriously. One of the biggest opportunities in my business right now, something that this year alone could take us to an entire new level, is something that when it first came through on an email in my inbox, I thought it was a joke. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was all about. And I almost just spammed it. Just said, no, it's nothing. I chased it up because I'm in the habit of chasing up every single opportunity just to see. And this turned out to be the biggest thing to happen in my business so far. So be very, very, very careful. Entertain every opportunity, even if you don't go with it. It's a bit like casting the net really wide, and then when you have your options, then you decide what to focus on. Okay? You get your funnel wide. When you know what's working, you go with it. Now, one of the most important skills I've ever found in business, and this is going to sound so freaking cliched, it's ridiculous, but it amazes me that people, when I work with new business people, and I actually work, because nowadays I do a lot of corporate coaching. When I work with new business people, there's something I find time and time again, and it's that they've completely underrated the value of selling. Whatever you do, whatever business you're looking to run, whatever market you're looking to be in, learn to sell. Get really, really good at it. There's almost this, there's like an arrogance about selling. What's the arrogance amongst people when it comes to that word, sales? What's the arrogance?
It's never taking no for an answer. It's always just plowing through.
Well, that's the arrogance if you're good at sales.
Yeah.
What's the arrogance of someone who avoids sales? What do they often think?
It should sell itself.
Maybe they think it should sell itself. What else?
You have to suck up.
Yeah, I have to suck. I don't want to sell myself. I don't want to suck up to anyone. I don't have to sell myself. I don't have to sell my product. Or that's someone else's job. Someone else will do that. There's this arrogance amongst so many people that sales is somehow beneath them. That sales is somehow beneath them. And it's a terrible, terrible way to be. Because you're at the top of your business. You are the only person that is truly responsible for making it survive. Because anyone else can just go and get another job. Anyone else can leave tomorrow and find another job. You're the only one who is truly 100% invested in that outcome. No one else cares about it as much as you do. And one of the things I see is people, as soon as they can delegate sales, they delegate sales. As soon as they can remove themselves from that, they'll remove themselves, because I don't want to be involved in selling. I just want to be involved in prettying up the product, putting some more bells and whistles on it. Doesn't even need them, right? Just doing a few extra things. Oh, there's some paperwork to do. Oh, there's other things to do. What I see everywhere is what we call avoidance activity. Avoidance activity. Avoidance activity is, I'm going to do everything else except the one thing that I really should do. When people get into the whole area of learning about attraction, what do they often do? What do you see in people who often start learning about attraction?
You do all the things that you do all the things that aren't actually what's the word? Kind of that you have to do to actually make someone attracted to you. You do, like, you read books, you do everything around it, all the noise.
Yeah, the noise. That's a good word for it. You get a guy who enters this area, wants to learn about attraction, and so he says, okay, what do I need to do? Well, I need to get a haircut, and then I need to go and buy some new clothes, because that's really important. And then I need to read more, because it's really important I know everything about this subject. I should probably meet some more guys who are learning about this stuff. I should probably understand more about this area. I should probably get my teeth whitened. I should probably learn some cool places to go. And all of this stuff is just avoidance activity. That's all it is. Now, I'm not saying none of it is important, but it's all the icing on the cake. But people get into that and they indulge in it solely because that is avoidance activity. I can do this as an excuse for not doing the one thing that's actually going to get me results, which is walking up to someone, risking rejection, and trying. That's the only thing that's going to really make the difference. That's the thing that if I do that, remember the law of 20-80%? 20% of what you do is going to get you 80% of the results, but most people live in the 80%. Most people indulge in the 80% their whole life, do 20% like this much. They do the 80% that gets them the 20% of the results. We have to focus on the 20%. What's the 20%? Well, in any new business, the 20% is sales. That's the stuff that's going to get us 80% of the results. And I know businesses where people suddenly get into panic territory, where they've not got any clients, their cash flow's going down, and they see the business being brought down, and they go, oh God, I've got to get a new client. So they suddenly go out and pitch themselves like their life depends on it. And they get a new client. And then they go, oh, I've got a little bit of cash flow. Okay, well, we can relax now. Let's go and find some new office space. All right, that becomes what they do next. But we have to identify what's the thing that's going to get me there. What's the thing that's going to get me there the most? And not have that arrogance that I'm somehow above sales. We're never above sales. And no matter how big your business gets, you're still never above sales. And in addition, sales, the funny thing is, you're not just selling a product, you're selling yourself. You're selling yourself. I truly believe selling yourself to be one of the most important skills you can ever learn in your whole life. I think it's everything. Whether it's attraction you're focusing on, whether it's business you're focusing on, I think selling yourself is the most important thing you can ever learn. I want to give you a little breakdown of what I think is important in selling yourself, okay? So one of the things I think is important in selling yourself is being passionate about the product. Be passionate about what you're selling, okay? Number one. 2, you cannot be afraid of breaking rapport. Whenever you sell yourself, you cannot be afraid to break rapport. In other words, if I'm always worried about treading on people's toes, I'm never going to be able to truly sell myself. Does that make sense? I'm never going to be able to truly sell myself. Third, speak with authority on the subject that you're talking about. There is never any room for talking from a place that doesn't speak with authority. Never. There's this great poet, a stage poet called Taylor Marley, who said, it's not enough to question authority, you've got to speak with it too. And too many people are really good at questioning authority. They're really good at that because it's so freaking easy. It's so easy to question someone else, but to actually speak with authority is much more difficult, and that's what it requires. That's what's required to sell yourself. Whether we're selling ourselves in business, and I'm telling you, this is what you have to do, whether we're speaking to someone who we're attracted to, and you're really speaking with authority about why it's important that you two are together. You know, it doesn't matter. You are speaking with authority. Uncertainty immediately makes us less attractive as people, in business too. That uncertainty. I think, now it's not to say you always have to pretend you know everything about everything, because you're either speaking with certainty or you're curious with certainty. Because if I'm talking to you about your business and I don't know anything about, let's say, plumbing, and I talk to you about plumbing and I ask you about it and I say, tell me about that thing, I'm still not uncertain, I'm just curious, because I don't know that. So I'm not going to try and speak on that subject. But if I do try and speak on a subject, I'm going to say it with complete authority. It really does help if what you're talking about, what you're selling, you're passionate about. If you're not passionate about it, there's a whole different set of sales skills you need to sell that thing, right? It can be done, but it's much easier, especially when you run your own business, it's much easier to be passionate about what it is you're selling. And whatever it is you're selling, you have to be passionate. Every single one of the programs that I do, I'm insanely passionate about. And when you're passionate about something on that level, you can be shameless about it. That's the difference. When you're passionate about something, you can be shameless. I do a program on impact. You know, what it is to walk into a room and truly have impact on someone. What it is to walk into a room, be able to work that room, be able to tell an amazing story, be able to persuade someone, get someone onto your level of thinking. And for me, it's the most important skill in the world. It's the most important skill in the world because it's the one skill that I've had to learn over the last 5 years religiously. Every single week I'm out and I'm doing this, I'm practicing it. I'm looking at my voice, I'm looking at my gesturing, I'm looking at the way I stand. Everything that I do is about impact. When I go on TV, I'm learning that same set of skills. When I'm talking to someone on the phone and talk to them about a course that I have, it's impact that comes out. So I'm insanely passionate when I talk about this. That's everything to me. I don't need to worry about holding back. I don't need to worry about being uncertain because I'm shameless about it. This is something I'm passionate about. This is something you must do. I know Anthony shares the same passion. It's like that passion that says, I have to do this. I have to communicate this to you. And that's what makes the difference. Is if I'm that passionate, I'm going to be able to sell you anything because I believe it too. Because I actually believe you should come and do this. That's the difference. And that's what we're looking for. By the way, while I'm on this subject, I have a link for you to go to. I've got a free gift for everyone in this room. There's a link for you to go to. It's www.matthewhussey.com. matthewhussey.com/21convention. Okay, go there. I have something waiting for you there. It's just my gift to everyone for being in this room. matthewhussey.com/21convention. Okay. We have to be passionate about whatever it is we're talking about. Now, I want you to take literally 2 minutes to write down. If there's, because I always believe you shouldn't ever leave the site of a talk like this, learning something new, figuring something out, getting some clarity, without actually taking some form of action. I want everyone to take 2 minutes to write down, okay? As a result of being here, if this has been an hour of my life, okay? This is an hour of my life that I will never get back. I have to make sure that this hour actually benefits me in some way. Because if all it did was stimulate me for a few minutes and then I went back to normal life, then it was a waste of time. in these 2 minutes, I want you to write down, what action has this prompted me to take? And it may be in business, it may just be in your career in general right now, but I want you to write down, what has this talk prompted me to do? What action must I take as a result of this talk? If I were thin slicing it and I said there's one action right in front of me, what would that action be? I want you to write it down. All right. Real modeling. This is why we call it real modeling. Because imagine this is you right now. When most of us think about who we're going to model, when we look at this concept of modeling, we look at the person that's at the top of our field, at the top of our game. So we look to this person here who's like a giant, the biggest person in our field. Now the problem with this person is that they're not that accessible. We don't just have access to this person. You can't just call them up and say, hey, how did you do it? Or can you help me? Because these people are used to getting those calls every single day. And even taking them to lunch doesn't work, does it? You can't, everyone says, oh, network that person, take them to lunch or whatever. This person gets offered to lunch 5 times a day. They can only eat so much lunch. They don't care, right? So that's not going to work with that person. But there's someone who's right here. This person is just a small distance in front of you. You don't need to know everything that the giant knows in order to make a small gap, bridge a small gap in your business. You just need to know what the person immediately in front of you does. So when you're doing this, pick someone who's immediately in front of you and model them. Get access to them. And by the way, they'll be much more happy to give you access because it will be an ego trip for them. Whereas this person's over it. The person directly in front of you gets a kick out of seeing someone who's just behind them trying to get some help. Okay? And you can actually get close to this person, whereas this person you can't even get close to, let alone model them. The whole concept of modeling is based on modeling people's specific strategies. What do they do every single day? What do they think? What do they feel? How do they behave? Everything. How can you do that with this person when you don't even know what they were doing last week? We have no idea, so you can't truly model that person. Okay, one more example. What did someone choose? What did someone say they were going to do as a result? Yes, in the corner.
Take a lot more risks. If I want to do something, just go and do it rather than thinking about whether or not.
Okay, so I'm going to take a lot more risks. What I think you should do is later today, sit down and write down what are the top 5 risks you could take that would have the most payoff. Okay? Fantastic.
Cheers.
All right, what I'm going to do lastly, before answering a couple of questions is, I want to write down the features that I've found in most of the best entrepreneurs that I know, and I want to just list what it is I see that's different about them to other people so that we can at least start to model that and maybe decide whether it's right or wrong for you, because I genuinely don't think being an entrepreneur is right for everyone. But there are some people who it's perfect for. Let's look at the characteristics that they have. One, I've found that, as we said, every one of these people has an ability to sell themselves. Every one of these people has an ability to sell themselves. Okay? They are good at that skill. Most of them are exceptional at that skill. You put them in a room with someone, and at the end of that sitting, someone wants to buy something from them, or they want to hire them, or they want to be around them. They're just persuasive people. Next, they have a high stress threshold. They are used to dealing with large amounts of stress and dealing with it well. In fact, some of the best guys that I know, they don't experience massive highs or massive lows. They're just kind of happy and constant. Often I worry when I see someone who experiences this extreme high as soon as something goes well, I worry a little bit. Because usually that person is also very good. As soon as something goes badly, they're good at plummeting in that moment. We have to be very careful with our emotions in this. Because your emotions are going to be messed with every step of the way. You'll get something go right, and then the next day something will go badly wrong. It's extremely important to have that even emotion across the board. It doesn't mean you're neutral. It doesn't mean you feel nothing. It actually means that you're at a higher level of happiness than most people are, but you're not feeling the extremes all of the time. Because if you're feeling that in business, you're going to go grey before your time. Next, stamina. These guys have stamina. They know that whether or not they get there today is kind of irrelevant. They're still going to be doing the same thing next week and the week after and the week after. They have that stamina, even when stuff is going wrong. By the way, just going back to that stress point, there are going to be times in your business where things go really badly. Like, badly. And it's going to sting. Those moments are the moments where you become lean, emotionally. Most people have those moments and they crumble. But when I look back on those moments for me now, those are the moments where I got lean. I had a moment where, one of my worst moments, the moments I hated the most, or it was a little period, was I'd met someone who was an amazing guy, an amazing client who was very, very wealthy. And he had this tiny little corner office in Mayfair. And I didn't have an office at the time. I was working out of Starbucks. So he was like, I have this tiny little office. You've helped me. Do you want to operate out of there for a little while? And this was like, he was an angel to me. Now, when he said, do you want to operate out of there? What he was talking about was me paying 1/10 of the rent that you're supposed to pay in that area, which is one of the most expensive areas in the whole of London. I got there, I realized that this 1/10 of what it would cost me was still all the money that I had, but I needed to be there. So it was a choice really between doing that or having a box apartment. In the moment, I decided I wanted the office because the office would give me credibility, the apartment wouldn't. So I decided, okay, I'm going to get this little office. So I got this tiny little office. And for a period of a couple of months, I was sleeping on the floor of this office. And I hated it with a passion. I had this little sleeping bag, and I couldn't let anyone know that I was sleeping there because they would have chucked me out. I know they would have had a problem with it. So I had to roll this sleeping bag up every night, or unroll it every night, sleep in the sleeping bag, wake up at 4 a.m. before the cleaners got there, put it back, pretend I was the first one in the office, and then at the end of the night, pretend I was the last one there before I rolled it out again. I hated it. Imagine meeting someone on a night out as well, and you have to go back to your office. It's like, it